So in today's video, I'm going to go over the New Balance 550 in this white evergreen colorway. This is my own personal pair that I've had in my collection for the past year or so, and I've been wearing it a ton. So as you can tell, the leather is pretty creased, as well as you can see some indigo stains on the sock liner. So I think I'm pretty well qualified to talk about the shoe and some of its pros as well as some of its cons as well. So to dive into the history of the New Balance 550, I talked a little bit about it in my previous video for the burgundy cyan pair that I have, but this is kind of the pair that kind of kicked all of this 550 hype off the ground. So this is kind of special in this regard. The New Balance 550, if you don't know, originally came out back in 1989. This was New Balance's old school basketball shoe back then, and it was actually the little sibling to that of the New Balance 650, which is a bit of a higher cut version of the shoe. So if you just imagine, if you just add a little bit more height here and two more lace options here, you pretty much have a 650. But I think one of the issues that this shoe had back then was actually a lot of players probably gravitated more towards a higher cut sneaker just because they probably wanted more ankle support and more stability. So as a result, the shoe kind of lost favor with a lot of basketball players, and New Balance pretty much stuck this back in the vault for about 31 years or so. It wasn't until 2020 when Teddy Santis from the brand Aime Dore decided to bring the sneaker back and try to revitalize the shoe with different fresh colorways, such as this one, a red pair, a gray pair, and a navy pair. I think their marketing for this sneaker was actually right on point, because Aime Dore as a brand is kind of like a mood board for the city of New York. You have all the different seasons of New York, you have the different sports of New York, and honestly the New Balance 550 really personified New York's love for basketball. You have places like Rucker Park, Madison Square Garden, you have the Knicks, of course. This shoe was done really well in terms of the advertising, the hype behind it. And as a result, the shoe sold out super quick. The New Balance 550 in this Aime Dore collaboration essentially fetched crazy prices on the resale market. I think this particular pair in its first iteration was about $700 or $800 per pair at the highest point. As luck may have it, I actually was able to cop this pair off of Aime Dore on the restock back in 2021. And this was actually kind of interesting because they actually had re-released the 650 and they decided to let it be a reservation system for the 650. So I pretty much pre-ordered a 650R, gave them my money, and it took I think it took 8 months for that pair to come in. But as a result of that, I was able to get on their early access list for this re-release back in 2021. So that was a lot about the history and how I was able to actually score a pair for myself without paying crazy prices. The sneaker retailed for about $120, so that was much more reasonable than paying the $600 or $700 at the time. So nowadays the resale price is going for about $350 to $400. It's a kind of a good question as to whether or not that's worth it, but let's go over some of the technical specs of the shoe before we decide on that. All right, so essentially what we're getting here is just a full leather Oxford basketball sneaker. It's a very low profile, of course, because it's a low cut sneaker, obviously. And I really dig the materials that they chose for this particular sneaker, because you can tell that the leather is decent quality. It's probably not obviously it's not an Alden or one of those dress shoes, but I really enjoy the softness of it. One of the characteristics that I've noticed between this particular pair as well as the GR pair that I reviewed recently on the burgundy and cyan pair is that the leather is much softer and much more malleable on this pair. It's easier to break in. It doesn't really hurt during the process of breaking it in. The burgundy cyan pair is actually kind of brutal on the feet because it's so thick and so stiff. So breaking it in is kind of an arduous process. I have to walk miles and miles and miles, and it takes a long time essentially. This pair pretty much broke in right out of the box, and it was very comfortable straight from the jump. So going over the shoe itself, on the lateral and the medial side here of the sneaker, we have hits of evergreen everywhere. So we have some hits of evergreen here on the ankle area as well as on the end and this 550. Now going across the toe, we have this hit of asymmetrical leather. It actually provides a bit of a visual contrast when you're looking at it from the top down. It's kind of nice. I actually prefer this look over that of a Jordan 1 or a Nike Dunk. But one of the things that I really like about this particular pair is that you can't really tell that it's obviously a collaboration. So if I look at the left sneaker, on the back of the sneaker, this is actually the first subtle hint that this is a collaboration pair. As you can see, it doesn't have that same NB branding on the back. Now it features the insignia for Aime Dore, as well as a basketball in the shape of an apple. And obviously the apple is for the big apple, so I guess that makes sense. So going across the tongue, we have Aime Dore done in this evergreen colorway. It's actually a little bit different from that of a regular GR 550 just because usually you just have the New Balance here. We also have the same basketball logo done here as well, and it gives it like that cool old school vibe as well. Some of my favorite parts of this sneaker are actually pretty subtle, and you wouldn't be able to tell unless you held a pair in your hands. The end logo, for instance, here, it looks like your regular end logo with some green coloring, but essentially what we have here is just this cracked leather upper. It's really pleasant to look at, especially when you notice it. I feel like it gives the shoe a lot of character. The other really cool feature that I like about the shoe is the midsole. As you can tell from the camera, it's slightly yellowed and it has a little bit more color there than it does from the upper. I feel like it's really nice because it gives you, number one, a visual break, and it also gives you a reminder that this shoe is actually from the 80s. That's pretty much the 550 in a nutshell. Now the real question is it really worth paying for the resale price? So there are several options that I would recommend in this situation. If you really like this particular pair and you really like the color, I wouldn't hesitate to buy it right now because I feel like the prices are going to continue to go up. It's probably going to get even more expensive if you think about it in the long term. So in case you don't really like this particular color, but you like the collaboration between Aime, Dore and New Balance, there are 3 more colors of the 550 in this collaboration coming out soon. There's the brown, the burgundy, as well as the purple colorway. Those are slated to release sometime this year, so you might want to save up for those. The retail price is only $120 or so it's much better than paying like $350 or $400, especially if you can get them for retail. If you don't really care for the collaboration, but you really like the look of the 550 and the silhouette, then in that case, I would just recommend the GRs. The only thing you have to remember though is that the GRs are pretty difficult to wear sometimes. They take some time to break in because I feel like the leather quality is much thicker and much more heavier, and as a result, it's a little bit more stiff. So just be prepared for that when you wear them. But overall, I think it's a really solid sneaker. I really like it. It fits a lot of different styles. It works really well because it's a low top. I feel like this has reached that status of one of those sneakers that the more you wear it, the better it starts to look too. So I'm really happy about having this pair in my collection, and I'm going to continue to wear it for as long as I can. So thank you so much for watching. If you got to this part of the video, I really appreciate the support. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more sneaker content like this. All right, well, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.